Hello students, welcome back to Module 4, Expressions and Equations. This is Lesson 12 and it is called Writing and Evaluating Expressions, Addition and Subtraction. Our goal for today we will write expressions using addition and subtraction. The question that I want you to be thinking about during this lesson is, when choosing a variable to represent units, what must be remembered about the variable? Okay. So basically what we're doing is you're going to be given some kind of math problem, and your job is to create an expression using tools that will allow you to use the tools to solve whatever it's being asked for. So the word problem today is about me and Mr. Bodway. Some of you know us. Mrs. Nelson is 72 inches tall. Mr. Bodway is 4 inches taller than her. How tall is Mr. Bodway? So ultimately, you're trying to figure out how tall Mr. Bodway is. But in order to do that, the skill for this lesson is that you have to create an expression first. And one of the ways that we create expression first is we incorporate the use of tape diagrams. So it says, first use a tape diagram. What variable will you use and what does it stand for? So if I have a tape diagram of this situation, then we know that if we take my height and 4 inches more, that would represent Mr. Bodway. So I would say that we have my height, and then we have 4 inches more, right? And that's Mr. Bodway. So this is how I'm going to split up the tape, and I'm going to say that this right here is Mrs. Nelson. Okay. And then I'm also going to say that this right here are the additional 4 inches. So we're going to call those inches. And then we're going to say that all of this up here put together is Mr. Bodway. Does everybody understand our tape and what it looks like? Okay. So basically what we can do is we can say that the variable that we need to find is for Mr. Bodway because we already know all of the other information. So the variable that I would like to use is we're going to call it B. Okay, and so what we have is we know that Mrs. Nelson is 72 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and put 72 inches in there. And then it says Mrs. Nelson is 72 inches tall. Mr. Bodway is 4 inches taller than her. How tall is Mr. Bodway? Then I would say that each one of these is 1 inch. So 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1 inch. And so then if we're going to write an expression, we're going to say that Mr. Bodway, B, equals, well, we're not going to do equals because we're supposed to write an expression. And so in order to do an expression, then we would say that B minus 4 represents Mrs. Nelson, right? That's what we would say if we were writing an expression like that. B minus 4 equals Mrs. Nelson, which is true. You're taking Mr. Bodway and you're subtracting 4 inches and you should get to 72. And by doing that, okay, we could use that. We could say B minus 4 equals 72, right? And so in order to solve that, then all we have to do is say, okay, what number minus 4 equals 72? So we know that B has to be 76. So that means that Mr. Bodway is 76 inches tall. So Mr. Bodway, can't see it. So we did B minus 4 equals 72. So what number minus 4 equals 72? Has to be 76. So Mr. Bodway is 76 inches tall. And we solved the problem, and we figured out how tall Mr. Bodway is. Okay, so basically, writing and evaluating expressions are very easy because remember, writing means that you're creating them. You're coming up with what an expression is that you could use. And then evaluating means to plug in what you know. And so we took the expression of what represents Mr. Bodway and me. wrote it right here, and we know that I equals 72 inches because that's what it says. So then we turn it into an equation, because when it says evaluate, that means to solve it. And so then you say, what number minus 4 equals 72? And we come up with 76. And so we were able to figure out that Mr. Bodway was 76 inches tall. Okay? All right, so going back to our goal, today we will write expressions using addition and subtraction, which is what we did. Okay, question, when choosing a variable to represent units, what must be remembered about the variable? I would say that the variable needs to represent who it's supposed to be. That's why I chose B, because B reminds me of Bodway, and then I know what I'm talking about. So that's just a little helpful hint to help you remember when you're choosing your variable. You might want to choose it so that it gives you some kind of connection to what you're trying to find. If you're trying to figure out how many oranges something would be, then the variable that you could choose would be an O. If you're trying to figure out how many pencils there would be, then your variable could be a P. So basically, the variable that you choose is representing what they're asking. So a lot of times I choose the variable to match whatever it is that they're trying to find. Okay? All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you today. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.